We have a quorum here. We have a quorum here physically, and Mary Hansen has asked to participate remotely. And so, Mary, there you are. And can you state where you are and what you're doing?
Sure. I'm at my home at 240 Watling Street in Urbana, and it's for medical reasons. So thank you.
Do I have a motion to allow Mary Hansen to participate remotely?
I make a motion to have Mary Hansen participate remotely.
Second?
Second.
All right, Alana seconds. Let's go do a vote. Beth?
Yes.
I say yes. Alana?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
All right, motion passes.
Thank you.
Moving on. Now we'll do the formal roll call. Mary?
Present.
Beth?
I'm here.
Mary's here. Alana? Sandy's here.
I'm here.
Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We do have some amendments for the agenda, where we're adding a couple of items, some resolutions and the pool fees. Do I have a motion to accept the?
I wrote the changes out.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we are. To add under action items, item B, resolution 2023, resolution 002, resolution authorizing the pursuit of financial assistance via the Virginia Department of Health, Office of Drinking Waters Planning and Design Fund Program, and to move item 9A, pool fees, to item 8C under action items. Do I have a motion to accept the amended agenda?
I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? Mary?
No.
No, let's vote. I'll do it that way.
Oh, yes. Yes,
yes.
I vote yes.
Sorry. Beth?
Yes.
I say yes.
Yes.
Alana? Sam?
Yeah.
Okay. First on the agenda is UBI presentation about the update on the Bristow Pavilion.
Okay, we've been working hard to raise funds to build the pavilion for the town of Urbana and put in Tabor Park. And we just wanted to let y'all know, right now in our funds, we have 70% there.
Yay.
And with commitments and pledges from other people, we are 98% done. We We plan to start building soon. We have our builder, and at the latest, we would like to start April 1st and be done by Memorial Day.
Awesome.
We do have some things we're going to need from town. Some of the types of material the town's going to use for their facility, so we can all try to match and be very similar in design. So if y'all can work with us sooner than later to get those answers.
We're trying to get that done.
Perfect.
It's in the works and there's some holdups, but it's in process.
Okay. Well, we're
Because we
excited.
want it to make it
Ready
look
to
like
go.
it was planned that way.
Right. Okay, thank you.
You all are to be so commended. Yeah,
Thank you.
really, I'm so
job.
impressed.
Now,
Yes, I bet.
now y'all can help us raise money for the pool.
Exactly. We use the pavilion to do it.
Yeah. There you go.
All right. Do we have any public comment?
No one's on.
No one? All right. Then I have no response. All right, action items. We have some resolutions. The part 8A is the formal resolution that is associated with the temporary funding for the well project for $1,056,000. And it is in your packet. It is something that we have to work on. We need to pass this. We've been through it. That's what Davenport did as its presentation in the last meeting. Do I have a motion to accept this pass this resolution as presented?
I'll
I
make a
move
motion.
I'll second.
All right. Any discussion? Let's vote. Mary?
Yes.
Beth?
Yes.
I say yes. Alana?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Motion passes. The next action item is the resolution, which is the this is the planning and design application for the reimbursement grant from AH Environmental is doing for us. They have, as an update on that, they have upped the amount that we can apply for to up to $45,000. So it's possible if we get any funding, we're going to be able to get the whole thing refunded. None of that is guaranteed, but it was a $38,000 contract. It was a $35,000 grant we were applying for, but they have increased the funding to $45,000 per item. And so hopefully it's we're not going to make money on it, but hopefully we will get it reimbursed. And so do I have a motion to accept resolution 2023-002 for moving forward with that application?
I make a motion to accept and move forward on the application.
Do I have-
2023, do I have to say that? No. Resolution
Go ahead.
2023-02.
All right. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All right, moving on. Let's take a vote. Sandy, let's start with you.
Ah,
Alana,
Yes.
I say yes.
Yes.
Beth? Ms. Hanson,
Yes.
all right, motion passes. The next item in your packet is a brochure that was put together by the pool committee chairman, Barbara Hartley. And we have looked at these fees going back at this point, two council, well, not two councils, but a second council, the council before this and this council. And we have tacitly approved them, but not formally. And this Saturday, we're going to kick off fundraising at the chili cook-off. And as a result, we need to formalize the pool fees. And so what I would like to have is a motion accepting the basic pool fees for the Tabor Park Community Pool,
So that they can be advertised.
so they can be advertised.
I would like to say something.
All right.
I have attended 2 pool committee meetings. I was not appointed to the pool committee, but I attended because being elected on this council, it's really important to me. I work for you all. It's really important to me that I know everything I can about the pool, the waterfront, the finances, the water system. So I've been attending the pool committee meeting, and I was told that I was not allowed to say anything. And when the brochures were being passed out, I was told I could not have one. And is this the way all the committees are run? Is it the secret society of the pool committee?
No, pool committees, and probably I should have asked for the motion in a second and then have this as part of the discussion, but committees, the way committees are set up is committees are a working body that the public is able to not participate in, but they're allowed to attend, but they are not there to participate. If just like with this, if we had this as an open quorum where there was just an open discussion about what was going on, that's what the public comment period was for. And you did participate in the first one. The propriety of that participation was called to order on the second one. And technically that was correct, which is the way things are said. But people from the public, which is what you were attending as, are not participants in the committee. And
I
so,
think that it would behoove everybody on this council to be involved in every aspect of this town, because you all have trusted in me to sit here, and I feel like I should know everything that I can possibly know about all the committees. It would make this everybody wants the town to be the best that it can be. And I think we all need to work together, and to shush a member and not give a member and then put it in front of me tonight and want me to vote on it. It just doesn't sit right with me. And particularly, I can see it. And Mrs. Arard, I'd love to know if that really applies. Does it apply to an elected council member? Am I considered?
It is going to be in my presentation, and so we can have a longer discussion, but for purposes of this topic, you're not approving anything. You still have time to consider it. This is just the authority to advertise a public hearing, receive public input, and then there would be a vote to accept the fees. I don't know if that is helpful or not.
No, not really. It really doesn't have anything to do with what I'm saying. I'm just very disappointed that wanting to learn everything I can about this town and everything that's involved with it, that I would be shushed. It just sets, I think it sets a bad idea for everybody.
It shouldn't be. You're a town council member.
Well, the way I feel, and it's hard for me to learn about everything when I'm not allowed to take part in any discussion.
And well, what you're voting on tonight are just the fees that were in here, not
Right.
the brochure that was sent out.
I
Right.
just wanted to
So
get it
just
out
clarify
that
that.
it's just the way all the committees are run. Are they all sort of a secret society? And you
no,
can't-
all committees are open to the public. And as you have witnessed, these committees do a lot of work to get to a certain place and make a presentation to council. And the alternative to what you're suggesting would be that the entire council work on every committee all there, so that every work session then goes through all of the nitty gritty of what happens. And that would be a cumbersome, I can't say that it can't be done, but certainly, as Beth knows from looking at water, that the amount of information that it takes to make a decision with respect to water, or what Mary has gone through with the planning commission to look at all the choices, it would be a fairly cumbersome thing to have that as an open public discussion. And so the purpose of the committees is to streamline that process, to get rid of the chaff from the wheat, so that we can have something to present to council. And
I understand, but it's not right. I'm one person, I'm a council member elected, and I feel like I should be allowed to take part in that discussion. It's a lot of money. It affects this town a great deal. It's a huge amount of money.
it absolutely is.
And that's all I have to say about that.
May I ask, Mayor, what would be the appropriate place and timing for Alana to participate and have her questions answered? Where in our process would she have that opportunity, if not at one of the working committees?
Well, in the specific thing with respect to these fees, I know that these fees have been talked about in open council sessions multiple times, not only in the last council, but in this council. And those discussions could have occurred in open council sessions.
Okay.
That's one. In the individual meetings, it would be appropriate, I think, and going forward could be instituted, that for people that are participating at these meetings, that there be, just like in these meetings, we could have a public comment area, so that people that are sitting there that are from the general public can have input.
Okay, thank you.
And is there any other facility that you can think of, Andrea?
I think and I'm not trying to not answer it, but I really think it falls very nicely into the presentation. I'd
Okay.
like to have a full discussion on that.
Okay.
So I'm not trying to not answer any of you, but I just would like to keep
Right.
it in that portion of the agenda.
Because this is not a time for public discussion, sorry.
No, I just wanted to clarify what you said,
Well, no.
which wasn't true.
What wasn't true?
But no, we're not going to get into any discussion. You guys can discuss it later. But at any rate, what we're trying to do is get an approval of the basic structure of these fees, because we are going to present them to the public for fundraising on Saturday at the chili cook-off. And so, can I have somebody offer a motion to accept these fees as presented?
May I ask a point of clarification, Mayor? Simply
Yes.
because of something that someone said, I think maybe Martha said. So are we voting to approve these fees for the purposes of advertising? Can the fees be changed after that? Or are we committing to these fees at this time?
The fees can only be lowered. You could not increase the fees.
Okay,
So we are voting to accept these fees.
You're voting to authorize those for advertisement. Let's say you get to the public hearing and you want to increase the fees. You would simply re-advertise another public hearing
Mhm.
and then you could adopt the higher
Okay.
fees. Yeah, so
Thank you.
you're only committing to advertising what's before you.
Right. And the whole purpose of doing this is because we are going to have a table for fundraising at the chili cook-off. And we need to have a basic presentation and structure for the purpose of getting donations and to let the public know what it's going to take to support this pool. Is there any other way to say that? Any motion to do that?
I want to make sure everybody's. I don't want to say anything until everybody's finished with what they're saying.
Well, if the motion is made and seconded, then there can be additional discussion before the vote.
I make a motion to approve the pool fees as presented
For advertisement.
for advertising.
Okay. I'll second the motion.
Okay, now, any more discussion?
Under town residents on your proposed fee schedule, you have children under 6. Next bulleted item says each town residence receives 3 free non-transferable family passes. I think that should say, just to eliminate any confusion, daily passes.
Okay,
Because they're not good for the year. They're
So it's not a family pass, it's a person.
it's a family
It can
pass.
be a family.
or a
Yes.
day.
Okay, say that. Just want to make sure it
Yes.
is a family pass for the day.
Let's insert daily between transferable and family.
Well, it says 3 free passes here. That's.
Yeah.
Should be daily. I think,
Yeah, and these are still proposed fees.
right.
And like I said, they've been sitting out there for council to comment or object to for at least 18 months.
Right.
It's interesting that it's a sticking point now, but that's and we're also at a spot where we need to move forward if we're going to get this pool in the ground. And like I said, there's going to be a table at the chili cook-off to start collecting on some of these things with these different categories. All right. So any other discussion? We'll have a vote. Mary,
Yes,
Beth,
Yes.
I say yes.
No.
Alana says no. Sandy? Yes?
Yes.
All right. So we can move on now. All right. I think that takes us through the action items. Before we get into this evening, and the general public is welcome to stay. We're going to do FOIA training particularly for the new. Yeah, I'm going to say before the three different things.
The town manager.
Oh, the town, Garth isn't here. And there are three things that
Okay.
need to be brought up to date. One is the final kayak trail layout is in everybody's packet for final approval, or you were getting an email from Garth and he just wants everybody to go over it. We've already approved the kayak trail. Larry Tuning has done an incredible amount of work to get these things done. It's an interactive map that when you click on it, you can see pictures associated and script associated with that particular area in the creek. And Garth just needs to sign off on that as a final approval to get it active at the state level. So it is incumbent upon every council member to read through that and see if they've got any corrections and then tell Garth individually so that he knows that he can sign off on it. See if you got any other corrections. I know I've read through them. This is just a point of interest, but it's a really neat thing. And it was in an email from Garth a couple days ago.
By what date should they notify Garth?
By next week,
End of next.
the end of next week, because he wants to get it done. The second thing is we attended the Board of Supervisors meeting on the boundary adjustment for the town to take on this lot and the 10 acres of the Hall property, as well as some of the Thurston property land. The town attorney did a presentation to the Board of Supervisors, and it was passed 4-1 to move forward with Supervisor Williams being the lone no vote. And so that's not a done deal yet, but we're at least moving forward on that item. And the last thing that Garth would have reported on is because there was some issue with the lore of the Old Town Hall with respect to the condition of its foundation, which was hindering our ability to sell it. We have contracted with an engineer that does foundations, and Garth has entered into that contract to get that figured out so that we can make sure that we're not passing off something that's unsound. And if we find out that it's okay, then we get a better price. If it's not okay, then we'll know it and we can figure out what else we're going to do with it. Anything else? Okay, I think that takes us to the last item, which our town attorney has agreed to provide us with some FOIA training, which I'm sure will be riveting. And
Lock the doors.
and the general public is welcome to stay to find out about FOIA. But that
Fun.
concludes the
You're all
business of
going.
the evening. There you go.
Sure. I'm so hurt.
Your hair looks great.
I'm just crushed.
Dan, I thought for sure you'd stay.
Yeah, Dave.
I said I thought for sure you'd stay.
Yeah.
You know what? You can read it all in that packet you have in your hand.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, do that.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for coming.
Can you make it full screen? I mean, the
I
slides.
can do my
part.
best. We don't have PowerPoint on here. This.
Oh, you don't?
No.
Okay.
Don't. Let's see.
It's under,
I will do it.
I want to do it.
There we go.
Yes. Okay, that's good.
Okay.
So thank you for making time to hear about the Freedom of Information Act. The training is required, but I would like for this to be not boring, not dry. I have done many, many trainings on FOIA. It is impossible. I'm just going to shut this to get everything at one time. And so I'm kind of hitting the highlights tonight. And I'm happy to present again, maybe in a couple of months, because by that time you'll have thought about the application of it and have more questions. Or if you have individual questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I love to talk about FOIA. So what is the purpose of FOIA? Next slide, please. We did not have FOIA until the early 70s. And so I once was putting together some historical records in Stafford County, and they would have school board meetings in somebody's kitchen. And, they would be handwritten notes. And so it was stunning to me to see that. But the purpose of FOIA, and this is included in here because this is what the courts look at. This is what the judge pays attention to when interpreting what FOIA does and does not say. The purpose is to promote an increased awareness of governmental activities and to afford citizens every opportunity to witness the operations of government. Okay. It used to be that citizens' time was not required for a regular council meeting. There's a separate statute now in Title 15.2 that you must have citizens' time at least 4 times a year. So theoretically, under the law, citizens could only have 4 opportunities a year, but what they're entitled to is to witness the operations of government. And that is sometimes misunderstood by a lot of people. Exemptions from public access are to be narrowly construed. And when in doubt, you err on the side of public access and sharing more information with the public as opposed to less. Next slide, please. So what does FOIA apply to? Next slide. Like really everything, anything and everything that you all do in your capacity as members of the Urbanna Town Council. So if you send Facebook messages relating to business of the town, that's a public record. If there are only 2 members on a committee, that's a public meeting. You cannot call each other up on the phone. Anything related to the transaction of business, notes that you pass, stickies that you put on something. I had a situation once when I worked at the Virginia Department of Education, and a citizen made a FOIA request for some special education records, and the mother was a little difficult. Somebody had taken a yellow sticky note and written BITCH and stuck it right on one of the records. That became part of the record. That had to be copied and provided as part of the record. So people now don't really pass notes as much as they used to. Used to be a lot of note passing. Now people text. Well, those text messages are public records also. And it doesn't matter if it's on your phone or a phone owned by the town. It is whether or not it is transmitted by you related to the transaction of public business.
It's okay. It's a little hot in here. I was just.
AC on. It should still be on, but.
So that is the litmus. Next slide. So who can make a FOIA request? Anybody who is a citizen of Virginia can make a FOIA request. There is an exemption that for out-of-state citizens that they are not entitled to make a FOIA request. Broadcasting entities, newspapers, TV stations, if they broadcast in this area, they are entitled to make FOIA requests. And so usually the first thing that I look at when we get a FOIA request, especially if it's labor intensive, is where does this person live? Is this person a citizen of Virginia? Because there are a lot of companies now that put together government records and then they want to sell it back to you. And I've gotten a lot of like PO boxes where people claim that they live, or vacant lots. I mean, I Google it, I pull it up on Google Earth, and I really look to see if they in fact live here. There are a lot of out-of-state people that are really unhappy about this. I was talking with Alan Gernhardt, who's the head of the FOIA Advisory Council. And he said that people from out of state are just very irate about this. So I don't know if at some point they'll get to the General Assembly and that will change. But for now, we can contain it to people who live in Virginia. Next slide. Now let's talk about, oh, we did talk about that. So citizens or people with circulation. Next slide. Let's talk about what's a public meeting. A public meeting is any time when we're talking about council members, 3 or more are together and you're discussing public business. So if 3 of you run into each other at the chili cook-off and you want to say, oh, I really felt good about the blah, blah, blah that we did at the meeting the other night, don't do that. Talk about how cute your dog is, your grandchild, your kid, the State of the Union address, anything. You do not want to do that because that's an illegal meeting. And in order to have a legal meeting, there has to be at least 3 business days notice. And it does not have to be published in the paper. It does have to be posted here at Town Hall and on the website and other places where we post notices. There also has to be minutes taken. And of course, there has to be the opportunity for citizens to observe what's going on. Many years ago, when elected officials would go to national conferences like the National League of Cities, they would post a vague notice that says, it is possible that at some point during the National League of Cities conference in Philadelphia, that the Urbanna Town Council may conduct a meeting. And that is not sufficient notice. You must give notice of the time, date, and place. Now, you can have a meeting in Philadelphia, but you have to allow the public in. You have to have at least 3 business days notice. You have to take minutes. And the public has to have an opportunity to observe. It's a big deal. In terms of a committee, when you have a committee that is appointed by the council, that is comprised of a majority of members of council, that committee is a public body in the same way that the town council is. So that means that a committee meeting must have 3 business days notice. There have to be minutes kept. And the public is entitled to observe the affairs of that committee meeting. One other point is that when an agenda is prepared for, say, a council meeting, Martha distributes that agenda to you all and makes it simultaneously available to members of the public at the same time. That is required. So if there is a packet, for example, for a committee meeting, that also should be distributed at the same time as it is distributed to the committee members. There's no set way on how to distribute it. Some people have a hard copy in the room. Some people put it up on the website. Some people do both. People can write the clerk on an annual basis and ask to be notified of meetings and to be provided with copies of documents that are distributed prior to the meetings. Do you want to talk about the committees at this point, Ms. Courtney?
Oh, that's sweet. No, I just was very surprised and disappointed. I didn't know whether I understand about the public coming in, but when you have an elected official being shussed by somebody that's been voted out, I had a difficult time with that. And it wasn't like there were 50 people in the meeting. There were 7 people in there. I was a member of council.
What do you mean voted out?
I'm talking about Barbara.
Oh, I see.
Right.
Okay,
She's the one that told me I couldn't speak, and she's the one that wouldn't give me a copy of this. And
okay.
and I understand that there could be some sort of rule or regulation, and I understand how it applies to the public, where they don't want the public coming in and lots of people just confusing everything. But my point was that I have been elected by the people to learn everything I can about the town.
Mhm.
And so I am interested in the pool. I am interested in the water. I am interested in the finance. I'm interested in everything, because in order to be good council people, we have to know, I believe, I have to learn everything that I can. I owe it to those people. So not being able to take part in that was just very disappointing.
Mhm. And so under the technical rules, you're a citizen in that capacity. When you're not a committee member, you have the right to observe it. You have a right to get the agenda materials at the same time as the other members. And unless there is general public comment, then you're not allowed to comment during the committee meeting. And I think Mary Hansen had a very good question. You know, how do people get their questions answered? One way can be the committee chair. Another way can be the town administrator. You know, I mean, if it's something that I'm involved in, I'm happy to share information. I'm very big on transparency. And, you know, one of the things that I talked about when I interviewed is that I'm here for all of you. I don't take sides. I don't play favorites. I don't play politics. I'm here for all of you. You all ran for office. You deserve to have legal support to know what your options are. And you know, if I have information about something, I'm certainly happy to share it.
Can I ask a question on that? A committee is made up of, I think I heard you say you had to have 3 council members.
3 council members is a meeting. You can have as few as 2 members on a committee.
And that would be the mayor and myself in that committee.
So y'all are a meeting.
So all the other people are not, and that's okay.
All the other
All
people.
the other people on this committee.
How many other people are there?
Was
Let's see,
5 other people. Yeah.
5 other people, and they're not.
Okay, so then that would not be a public meeting because it has to be a majority of the members of the committee have to be elected officials.
That's what I was saying. So,
That's interesting.
yeah, so it looks like we've got too many people on that committee that are not elected. Am I right, Bill?
For you saying the committee, for a committee to function, it has to have a majority of the member okay.
In order to
No,
be called.
you as the council and different elected bodies do it different ways. You decide what committees there are and who goes on the committees.
Right.
Some places they only have elected officials on the committee. And some places they have elected officials and members of the public. It's up to you.
Okay.
Okay, so there's no rule
But
on that.
when I'm confused with your question about too many people on the committee.
No, I just thought there are more people that are not
That's correct.
members of council or,
Right, so then that would not be a required public meeting. it would fall outside of these rules that I'm talking about. But let's
If-
say it's,
If
you-
there are
if-
only two council members.
and
no.
then there are other citizens on the committee.
If you have appointed members, you know, if you have one council member, the mayor happens to be on the committee, and he's got 4 other appointed people.
Mhm.
That's not gonna be a FOIA meeting?
No, let's just, so if you have, let's say you have 4 people on a committee,
Okay.
okay? One is the mayor, one is Ms. Courtney, one is Ms. Sturgill. Sorry, I'll pick on you.
That's
next.
okay.
And then one is some citizen.
Okay,
You've got 3 elected officials and 1 citizen. That's gonna be a meeting
okay.
that is gonna trigger all of these FOIA requirements. Now, if you have a committee and it's made up, and let's say there's 5 people on it, and it's the mayor and Ms. Justice, and then these 3 citizens over here,
Okay,
then that is not going to fall under the FOIA requirements because you have a minority of elected officials on the committee. It's whether the elected officials are a minority or a majority.
So if there's 5,
Three of council, what I mean.
but I'm not on the committee.
No, but once you come together, like if the 3 of you would meet on the street, like she said earlier, it's a meeting.
As
So-
a,
So if you come into a committee meeting as council, you have taken that committee and turned it into a meeting, which then changes all the rules for that meeting.
only if they are a majority of the committee.
So 3 would not be.
It's really weird. So there's 2 buckets. There's 3 people run into each other at the farmer's market. That's a meeting. And it's an illegal meeting.
Only if we're talking about business.
Right, public business. Very good.
We're drinking wine, Beth. it's okay.
Right, and
Right,
we're
if
gonna
you're
do
drinking
that.
wine And gossiping, that's fine.
Right.
Okay, that's good.
The other bucket is committee meetings. You technically can have 3 members of council in a committee meeting if, let's say, there are 6 members of the public that are also on that committee. What you can't do, and this might be where you were going, is the 3 of you can't go huddling in a corner. You just come in like committee members and participate as committee members with the whole group.
okay.
Is that clear as mud?
Can
Well,
can I,
one
can I
question
just
I have,
recap?
Like,
in,
Can
in,
we use some? Should I go get the committees, a look at our committee
Yeah.
assignments and say what is what? Yeah. 'cause
and
Yeah.
so what you're saying is that the pool committee
Sorry, I forgot about you.
Yeah. But the pool committee, up until the point when Alana showed up, if she came in as a member of council, we wouldn't even have to keep minutes,
Right.
Yeah.
Or provide public notice.
Right.
or,
Because there's 5 of them, 5.
2 of us.
and
Yeah.
2, okay.
Mhm.
And if I'm there, I'm not a committee member, but if I'm there, then do I revert to, since I'm not on the committee, am I considered just a general member of the public?
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, what you don't want to do is when
Maybe
the
you should put me on the pool committee. That would solve all the problems.
Glad you think I was.
What you, but what you don't want to do is, as you're walking out, to talk with Ms. Justice and the mayor and start, then that would cross into illegal.
Because all of a sudden we would become a majority,
Right. No, because there would be 3 elected,
3 elected
like as you're
officials
walking out.
talking
themselves.
business.
Yeah. Mhm.
So we ought to have all our committee with 2 council members on it and then not have to do any of the notice requirements?
As long as they're not a majority of the committee.
The 2, right? So you had some more. You had 3 other people who were citizens.
Who's trying?
You have
Yeah,
2
you better
committee or 2 council members and 3
Mhm.
citizens
Then that
making up
would
the
not,
committee.
that would
And that
not be
would-
subject to FOIA. What I
We
would
are
urge
a
you to,
legal committee then. That committee is fine. We've got 5 people and 2 members of council.
Yes,
That's fine.
it's fine, yeah. What I would urge you to consider, though, is like, let's say you have some committees that are public and some that are not, it would be, this is not a legal piece of advice, it's a recommendation. I would encourage you to have a consistent policy. Because I just think that's really confusing for people and it looks bad. It looks like,
Right.
oh, backroom dealing, and nobody likes that. I
Right.
mean, and I have
But
the
that was
same-
Alana's complaint, that it looks like a secret society.
yeah.
It is.
And, you'll find that I don't tend to want to have a lot of closed
the hard way.
meetings. Because unless you really have to have a closed meeting, all it does is make people think that you're doing something untoward or underhanded, secret, and that's not the atmosphere that you want to foster.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, well, can you advance the slide?
This is the reason my phone is bringing up.
Here, I
off
can
the hook
advance it.
Is no, it's Barbara, saying, but she wanted to say when she was in the meeting.
I knew it.
But she called me a liar.
When you said no.
I think we're being recorded.
That's okay.
That's all right. But my thing is going. You hear, it's all these texts that I'm getting.
Yeah, she's bothering you and your meeting.
Yes.
Well, and that's another thing, not only are text messages related to public business something that can be FOIA'd, but it also is another thing, it looks really bad. I really heartily discourage you from doing that. I mean, unless it's something really urgent, like, I need to leave, my mother is ill or something.
So
So-
we're
so
not allowed to text
for-
message each
Just for
other?
clarification.
We can't talk about business.
You can say,
Thank you.
Sandy, I love that sweater.
Oh, thank you.
I wouldn't discuss any business over text. I really wouldn't.
So just for clarification, I'm speaking for Roy, but so correct me if I'm wrong, but I know Garth was of the same impression I was, that because Alana was there as a citizen, she was there to observe but not participate.
Mhm.
And that's why at the time, I didn't defend Barbara when she called foul on participation because of Alana's position as a resident, not as a committee member.
Mhm.
But just as I suggested tonight, maybe public comment,
Mhm.
if there's public there, would be
The right.
the right way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
He can do that. He could say, is there any comment from the public
right.
at the end of everybody's sentence?
Mhm.
That'll go over big.
I would encourage thinking about consistent processes and procedures for all committees. Because you just don't want citizens coming to want to go, well, I was allowed to talk at this one, and how come you people don't let me talk?
Well, and in this case, Alana talked at the first one and wasn't allowed at the second one
I think she thought about it, got mad and wanted to make sure
and
she
decided,
quelched me.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
the difficulty too becomes if you are
Get the,
rehashing ground
Yeah.
that has already been trod by the committee, there should be an opportunity for residents or people who come to attend to get briefed on what has gone on before, but not have the whole committee sit there and redo everything that they've been
Oh, no,
doing
no,
for
no, no, no.
for years.
Right. I mean, it needs to be efficient. I mean, that's the whole purpose of having a committee. But, okay, so the planning commission is always public. Because they are appointed by the council. So that's always a public meeting. The
But
his-
why is it a public meeting? Because they're appointed by the council?
Mhm. Yeah, they're a public body under FOIA.
But that was my question. If you have a committee that has appointed citizens, that's a public body.
But there's a difference between the planning commission and a committee appointed by the council. The planning commission is the planning commission. And they are included in the definition of public body in the Freedom of Information Act. Likewise, the BZA is a public body, like the Planning Commission. So let's look at, so the Architectural Review Board is not primarily elected.
But it is in the code. As one of the groups
town
that,
code.
then it's in the town code as a
Right.
standing
As a
standing
standing
body.
committee, yes, so I think that's gonna fall under the committee category. The Finance Committee has 3 council members, so that's
Yeah.
gonna be a meeting. Likewise, Personnel is gonna be a meeting. Water is gonna be a meeting. Pool is not. Urbana Creek is not. Town Marina is not. Economic Development would be. Middle Peninsula, that's something separate, so we don't have to talk about those. So the only one that's not public is the Pool Committee, is that right?
Marina
Oh, and
and the
Marina,
creek.
And Marina, yeah.
Creek, Marina, and Pool, okay. Okay, so let's go on. So the requirements for public meeting, again, 3 business days notice, at least 3 business days notice. There has to be an opportunity for the public to observe, and minutes have to be taken. There's also a new requirement that once minutes are formally approved, that they have to be posted on the town's website within 7 days of approval. And draft minutes are public documents. A lot of people get that confused. Oh, they're not ready yet. Well, no, a draft set of minutes, somebody can FOIA them and get a copy of them.
I have a question. So is that Martha's on the water committee? Are you taking notes?
I am not on the water committee.
Oh,
I'm just there.
so we're not taking, what do we do about the water committee taking notes?
The last one, I created some minutes.
Is that good enough? I mean, just somebody jot down,
You can designate a member of the committee to take the minutes. Yeah.
don't look at me. I guess we have, I mean, I already taken on the chairman thing. I've got to learn all this stuff. I can't do notes too, but
And one thing I will tell you is you cannot tape record it and say that that is your minutes.
and if you Zoom it, if you do a Zoom call, how's the public going to be a part of that?
Well, you would make
I've
the
done that.
Zoom information available to the public. in the
How
minutes.
how would you make it available to the public?
Put it-
So all of our meetings that are Zoom, so we do have people who ask specifically for like the FOIA request for all meetings once a week. I have an email distribution list that I send to all these people.
Okay,
Every single meeting we have. And then for water committee, that's via Zoom, and contact me for the Zoom information.
okay. So
That's-
I'm just making
Yeah.
sure you got it covered,
Yeah.
that it's not on me.
She's
Yeah.
on it.
I'm
Okay,
on.
I know you are. You always are.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay, next slide, please. So electronic participation in a meeting is allowed. We've gone kind of all over the place with the pandemic. At this time, and I'm not going to talk about situations where we have an emergency. We're going to not have any more
Right.
emergencies. As long as there's a quorum physically present, other council members can participate electronically. Now, you'll notice that we had Ms. Hanson identify the reason. If you are participating electronically for a medical reason or to care for a family member who has a medical condition, there's no limit on the number of times that you can participate electronically for that. If you are participating electronically for a personal reason, you're on vacation, I don't know, you just had to go somewhere and you want to participate, there is a limit on the number of times that you can do that. And it's 25% of the number of meetings that the council has in a year. So again, that's still probably a pretty liberal number.
Yeah.
It used to be just 2 times. You do need to request permission. You have to state the reason. You have to state where you're participating from. And it has to be reflected in the minutes. So. Our committee, next slide, please. Yeah, we did that. Next slide. So minutes, a lot of discussion about what do minutes have to be. And many, many times there have been bills introduced, there may even be one now, requiring verbatim minutes. And so far, right? So. You. Somebody resuscitate Martha. And that bill is sailing right through. No. So far, they have not been passed by the General Assembly. I do think that one day we're going to get there. So what has to be in minutes? It has to be enough to cover what substantively occurred at the meeting. The level of detail is really up to the council. I will give you a specific example of what is not allowed. There are some governing bodies that go into closed meeting at the end of the meeting every time. And then when they come out of closed meeting and everybody has left, there are all these other things that they wanted to bring up. And the belief is, well, that's not part of the public meeting. Well, yes, it is. And anything that's brought up after closed meeting, even if it wasn't on the agenda, if it's some kind of a substantive matter that was discussed, it should go in the minutes. So I don't favor that practice. I routinely discourage people from doing that. And FOIA is intricate enough that I encourage you, just learn how to do it the right way. Do it the right way all the time. And it's a lot less hard that way. It's not worth it to try to skirt the law or to, find a loophole. I mean, we work for the people. Right. So it's not what we're here for. Next slide. What is a public record? Again, a public record is really anything. It can be a voicemail message. It can be emails. It can be letters that you get, text messages, Facebook messages, could be a TikTok. Anything can be a public record if it relates to the transaction of public business. I encourage you to get in the habit of sending all of your town-related emails out of the town account, because that way, if we get a FOIA request, you don't have to fish through all your emails and pull them out. A lot easier. It gives some thought to what you say in an email. We're all from the South, and so we all want to start out with something, I don't know, funny or personable. We can't just go straight to the point. there is no exemption for, I don't know what I was thinking when I wrote that, and I really wish I hadn't, and I don't want that to be made public. So if it's embarrassing or not something that you would want to read on a website or in the newspaper, just to think about that. Now, that being said, if you send emails out of your Urbanna account that are not related to the transaction of public business, they fall outside of FOIA. And I'll tell you my favorite example of this. I had a friend in the southwestern part of the state who got a FOIA request from the local newspaper. And the request was for all email exchanges between the mayor and the clerk. Because the rumor was that the mayor had the hots for the clerk. And, you know, the local government attorney was just sort of freaking out. And so we looked at the emails. The emails were all, "Ooh, baby, your eyes are so pretty. I love that skirt. You sure are fine. You so sweet." No mention of any public business. Not a public record. Anyway, I do not recommend doing things like that in the first place, but it just illustrates that if it's not related to public business, then it falls outside the scope of FOIA. But if it has an element of public business, you just put it right back in. And then if you put, "Ooh, baby," or, you know, "I just gained 10 pounds every Thanksgiving," or whatever, I can't redact that. And so if somebody asks for it, they get it. Next slide, please. This is the definition of public records in FOIA. I don't even know what half of that stuff is. Optical or magneto-optical form. I don't know. Roy probably knows. He's really smart. The point is, it's like just about everything. Next slide, please. Now, this is a really important point. FOIA applies to records, not information. So if I say, "Dear Martha, I want to know how many conferences the mayor went to last year," I'm asking for information. Now, we are, as the government, required to kind of try to figure it out. Like, is there a record that maybe this person is asking for? You know, if the mayor has submitted reimbursement requests, we could respond with those. But we do not answer questions. If we got a request like that, we would say, "Enclosed, please find the documents that are responsive to your request." And we do often get what people think are FOIA requests that are just a list of questions. And they fall outside the technical scope of FOIA. Usually, again, not a legal matter, but I do recommend trying to answer that person's questions, because even if they're not making a FOIA request, they took the time, they had questions. It's appropriate for them to get some kind of an answer. So, not information. So they can't say, "How many times did Ms. Sturgill vote no?" Or, you know, they can get copies of all the minutes and figure it out themselves.
So something that happens here on a repeating basis, Billy Mayo saying, "When are you going to get the boat ramp fixed?" You could send the last meeting where Garth said, we asked Dr. Bay to look at it.
Yep.
And that's all he's going to get.
That's all he's going to get.
Okay.
But this is part policy and part legal. If you end up in court, the judge is going to look at the correspondence back and forth by email, usually. And if the person responding on behalf of the governing body has been sarcastic or short or crappy, that doesn't look good. It's not a good look. So I always recommend being very gracious. You know, you have provided a list of questions. FOIA applies to documents. However, I have referred your questions to our town administrator, Garth Wheeler. I believe that he will be reaching out to you. Thank you so much for your interest in the town. It's, you know, again, I mean, people aren't always nice, but it's good for us to be nice when we can.
Sure.
Next slide, please. There is no requirement to create a document that does not exist. Again, if somebody says, you know, how many times did Ms. Courtney vote a certain way? We can say, we're happy to provide you with copies of all the minutes and all the meetings where she voted. But we are not required to create a document that does not exist. One thing I will tell you that's a little kind of interesting is that a person can request the format in which they want to receive the records. So, for example, if you are a governing body and all of your budget documents are done in Word or PDF, and a citizen writes and says, I want a copy of your budget in Excel because they want to add it up, right? And you write back and you say, well, we don't have it in Excel. Well, if you use Excel in your day-to-day life, and Martha does, she's like the Excel queen, then you have an obligation to provide the budget in the Excel format, even if it means somebody having to key it in. So.
But we can charge for that time, right?
So you can recover the actual cost of responding to a request.
Okay.
And there's been a lot of high profile cases. Are you turning the air down? Thank you. Where, I mean, there was a woman up in Loudoun County who requested sexual assault records from the high school, and they wrote her and said it was going to be like $32,000 to respond. I just think that, you know, you have to look at the big picture here. We are the government. And so, like, really, $32,000? Even if it does cost that much, if there, and sexual assaults have been a big issue in Loudoun County, I don't know why you would want to do that. You're inviting legislation to put a cap on the actual costs. You are inviting public dissent against you. So yes, we can charge the actual cost, but we are required to provide things in the least expensive manner possible. And I probably wouldn't charge that full amount because you do have an obligation to make it available. So that's one of those grays, really.
Well, in this case, if it was, you know, budget and it was going to require being put in Excel, could you give somebody a choice and say, we have it in this format and that you can have for free, or we can put it in Excel for $100?
I think as long as it's not, doesn't have the appearance or the effect of discouraging someone from accessing it. And sometimes public bodies intentionally put things in Word and PDF so that things can't be calculated. So that's a little bit of a slippery slope where you have to really, I mean, is this really something that, like, oops, we really don't have it? Or do we not have it because we really don't want people running our numbers? I just think you have to be careful with that.
Okay.
Is there? I mean, with a PDF file, you can freeze it so nobody can change it.
Mhm.
If Martha sends them out an Excel sheet, they could just change it whenever they want it.
Mhm.
And that's okay. We allow our documents to be manipulated.
Mhm.
Okay,
Maybe
Yeah.
you can try watermarking or certain things.
No,
you
but
there's-
the whole point of getting it in Excel is to manipulate it. That's
well,
why.
let's change the numbers,
So that people can.
change the numbers.
Mhm.
I mean, I can see adding it up, but
Well,
the
like, I
reason
mean,
you put things on PDF files is they remain constant.
yes, but let's say somebody wants to dissect the budget and say, oh, you say that 80% of your budget is personnel. I've calculated it, and actually you're so top heavy that 93% of your budget is personnel. That's kind of what people want to manipulate it for, not to fraudulently make records on behalf of the town.
But there's a potential of doing that.
Mhm. Yeah. Next slide, please. In the electronic world, and this comes into play more and more often, a lot of times people will say, well, I want a record that shows this, this, and this. And let's say we have it in a database and there's like the potential for 15 fields. Before we just pull out those 3 fields that they're asking for, we should say, it's in a database. I can identify it down to those 3 fields. Is that okay with you? Because you have to get the agreement of the person requesting the records if you're going to modify it. Can't just modify it and say, this is all we have. Again, honesty. Next slide, please. A FOIA request does not have to be in writing. It does not have to say FOIA. It just has to say, Ms. Justice, I'd really like to see the notes that you and the mayor were passing during the meeting. And then there's,
Let's say, I have no notes.
and then I said, then there's 5 business days to respond. Next slide, please. Next slide. So you have to respond within 5 business days. Next slide. It must, you can invoke an additional 7 business days if it is practically impossible. And you have to write the person and say, dear Ms. Hanson, I am writing to you about your FOIA request for every set of minutes back to the formation of the town. Because of the volume of records involved in your request, I will require an additional 7 business days to provide those records to you. And then we have that additional time. You also must respond, next slide, please, in writing to all FOIA requests. So if somebody comes in and asks Michelle for something, that's a FOIA request. If somebody calls you up on the phone and asks for records, that's a FOIA request. It doesn't have to just go to the designated FOIA officer. So you want to kind of just be aware, if somebody's asking for something, you go, hey, Martha, I got a phone call and somebody wants a copy of whatever. And then.
Okay, so the individual Beth doesn't necessarily have to respond to the request for water committee files. She can turn it over to
Martha. Mhm.
Good to know.
Thanks, Martha.
But
Oh,
you
I'm
just,
FOIA officer.
yeah, you just have to know to do it. Next slide, please. Oh, what happens if there's a FOIA violation?
One, if I can go back, I have a step.
Yeah.
When you say have to respond in writing, is it Martha's obligation then as the FOIA officer to respond, or am I supposed to respond to a request? Somebody asked me for some records.
Mark,
I tell Martha, do I also have to respond, or I would depend on Martha as the FOIA officer to respond?
mhm.
Okay.
I would depend on Martha, yeah. Now, if you didn't have confidence in Martha, which you should, but if you didn't,
Absolutely.
then I would recommend that you write back to the citizen and say, I have referred your request to Martha. She's our FOIA records officer. She will be responding back to you, just to kind of cover yourself.
I have a quick question.
Mhm.
And I know this probably wouldn't apply for anything, but like you said, the notes that you're passing to the mayor,
Mhm.
wonder if I wasn't passing notes to the mayor,
Then we just.
how
say
would you
there-
respond?
There are no notes.
That there are no notes.
Okay,
We have no records that are responsive to your request.
okay.
Yeah.
What you're done. I'm starting to get nervous.
All right, so what happens if there's a FOIA violation? You will be sad. That's what will happen. Next slide, please. So failure to respond is a per se violation of FOIA. It is considered to be a violation of the chapter. Next slide. For first offense, there's a civil penalty of $500 to $2,000. For a subsequent offense, it's $2,000 to $5,000 per offense. That comes out of your pocket. You pay that, not the town. And what happens sometimes is that people will allege maybe 6 violations all in one lawsuit. And then those dollars add up pretty quickly. Next slide. There's an additional penalty if there's an allegation or if somebody is able to prove that there was the alteration or destruction of a public record. And that can be $100 per record. So you've got your fine for violating FOIA. You've got $100 per record. Next slide. And then if you improperly certify closed meeting, it's an additional $1,000 fine. Now let's talk about that just for a minute. So when we go into closed meeting, there are very limited reasons that we can do that. And when we go into closed meeting, we can only talk about what was identified in the motion. It has to be clearly stated in the motion. So for example, there are 3 parts. You have to give the citation 2.2 3711A1 for the discussion or consideration of the annual performance evaluation. And then the third part would be town administrator. It can be just specific employee if there's a need to protect someone's, the confidentiality of something. But there are always 3 components to a closed meeting motion. If you are in a closed meeting and somebody goes rogue, I will usually say something. You should say something because that person is subjecting everybody to a violation of the law. And if they don't stop, every once in a while people slip and I'll say something and they go, oh, and then it stops immediately. But if they continue, then when you come out and you vote to certify, you vote no. Because you can't certify that you only talked about what was identified in the motion. And if you certify yes, and then it comes to court and there's a determination that the discussion did exceed the motion, that's when you're subjected to the $1,000 fine on top of everything else. But next slide. This is the real kicker. If a court finds that someone has prevailed on the merits of their petition, okay, they don't have to win. They just really, it just looks bad. It smells bad. The court can impose costs and fees on the council. Again, that's you personally, not the town. And I'll tell you, an inexpensive FOIA case probably starts at about $15,000.
So we would all have to split the cost?
Yeah, so you've got the fines, you've got the additional penalties, you've got the court costs, plus you'll be paying a lawyer potentially to argue and defend you on your behalf. FOIA cases are, I mean, I don't fool around with FOIA. I mean, not just because of, my belief in transparency, but also because it's not worth it. They get expedited priority on the docket. When somebody files a FOIA petition, it's 1 page. It's a 1-page form they fill out. You can be in court the next day. And the way that it works is that the person has to make out just kind of the basic elements of a FOIA violation. Most of the time, like if I have a car accident with you, right? And you sue me, you bear the burden of proving that I did something wrong, right? Not in FOIA. He just kind of has to come into court and say, hey, there was a car accident and the 2 of us were involved. And then the burden shifts to the government to prove that they did everything right.
With all the crazy people out here today that would want to get somebody in trouble, so that puts us up to be very vulnerable.
It does.
We should have had this conversation before we went. Honestly, I'm not kidding. We already work for free, and then now we got to worry about
Yeah.
people who might have that would stoop to
And-
that level.
But let me just tell you something. And this is why I say I strongly recommend you just do it right all the time.
Or just not talk at all. I mean,
No,
what's
no.
the answer? Because I'm going to be, well,
Because 9 times out of 10, when there's a FOIA case, it's over sour politics. Something happens, something goes awry, and all of a sudden someone says, yeah, I'm gonna get that, you know what? And that's another reason why I encourage all of you in your relationships with one another, play it straight, follow the rules. It's easier to remember the rules that way. And then you're not giving anybody any ammunition to come after you later.
so we all get along, but we're not allowed to get along, right? I mean, we're not even allowed to really talk or hang out for the next 4
You can
years.
hang out, you can go to social events, you can,
Can't talk about.
you just can't talk about business.
business.
I wonder if somebody who's like sour that for whatever reason, we have some people in this town like that would want to say something that's not honest just to get us in trouble because they know about FOIA.
But we'll be able to prove that they're not right. We'll be able to prove that we did everything right because we have Martha.
Okay.
So I'll just have to go out with you every time.
Okay. You are right around the corner.
Yeah.
Chaperone.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the next slide.
And we can't just make them take it out of our town wages, right?
No,
Yeah, I was gonna say.
no. It's, I've gone to court on quite a few FOIA cases and judges generally don't like the government. They just don't. They don't feel sorry for the government. And so you got that walking in, and then you've got usually a citizen who's claiming that they were deprived of their rights. And the courts take that very seriously. So it's a high standard that we get held to. And I, really encourage you, if you think of anything after this, to feel free to email me or call me, or we can set up another work session to talk about FOIA.
Do you ever win a case for FOIA? Do you go in there and just,
Have you
have.
done anything wrong?
no, I'm just covering my butt.
I have, but I will tell you that 10 times out of 10, if what the government did was wrong, your best strategy, I just had one like this, is to just go in and say, you know what? We messed up. I'm so sorry. We are
Okay.
so sorry.
I'm not,
And here's what we've done to correct it going forward.
yeah, okay. I'm not worried about screwing up so much. I just worry about crazy people that,
And that's like, you'll notice one of the reasons when I email all of you, you all get blind copied. I list that you're blind copied, and the reason why, and it goes back from being president of PTO, is the fear of reply all. And at some point, if there's too many replying all,
Yeah.
it creates a meeting.
It could be
I
So
see.
anytime I'm emailing more than two of you,
It's
you
blind
get
copy.
blind copy. Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's why, but you always notice that I do put in there who is on the email.
Right.
That's why.
One of the purposes of a closed meeting is to have a discussion. That's all it is. It's a discussion that for one reason or another, you don't have to have in public. It may deal with a contract, it may deal with a personnel issue, it may deal with everything, but it's a discussion. And when you're having that discussion, you're gonna have the town attorney sitting here probably, hopefully. And if she sees anything going wrong, like you're going off target, she'll say, let's get back to where we're supposed to be. So you get inside. When you have had that discussion and you all have made up your minds internally, how you're going to come out, you come out of that closed session. And then you deal with what the issue is. If you're going to enter into the contract, somebody says, I make a motion that we do the kind of, but you're out of closed session. You're no longer in closed session. And if you've done a personnel matter and you're not going to do anything about it, you're not going to fire me, hopefully, or, do anything about it. You don't have to
Do anything.
do anything.
Yeah. you can
But
just
if you're
adjourn.
going to do anything,
Okay.
you have to come out of closed session and say, oh,
Yeah.
okay, this is what we're going to do. And the
Right.
public has the right to come back. Usually what happens is the closed sessions are held at the end of a meeting. And then you have all the public go away. But when it ends up, when the closed session ends up, they can come back in because your meeting isn't over until
Right.
Right.
you come out of closed session and you say that. I don't know.
Yeah,
And-
no, that's a good point, Roy.
And
Thank you.
And it's because of who we are and the things that are possible that the councils that I've been associated with always wanted to have a town attorney present
Mhm.
to keep us from doing something stupid.
Which is a good idea.
Well, it's so easy when you're thinking about things to get off track. It is really easy. Thank you so much. But, just be mindful. I know that in a small town, you see each other at the post office, at
Birthday
community
party.
birthday parties. And, you may have citizens that come up and say, hey, I want to talk to you about whatever. And then the other three of you are standing there. Y'all better scatter like cockroaches in the night when the kitchen light's been turned
Or
on.
would it be best to say, could you contact me later?
Could we talk about this
Yeah.
later? Yeah,
Right.
that's fine too.
That's everybody.
Yeah.
needs the
That's
t-shirt that
allowable.
Smith had, which was no, not today.
Right.
So that'd be safer for us because there are going to be times I'm great friends with everybody here and I would hate to think that I can't see them anymore because I might
Oh, no.
be, you know,
Oh,
Well,
quit.
and you can even say, there are various.
interferes with our social life. Well, quit.
right. That's what-
There's nothing wrong with saying, there are rules about the discussion of public business. I take that very seriously. I'd like to just have a private conversation with you about that. When
Right.
can we do that?
right. That's what I would do.
So,
Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to go off on a tangent.
No, that's a critical
well,
question.
thank you.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you taking it so seriously. And Mary,
Money talks.
do you have any questions? You're
I
an
don't
old
have-
hand.
I don't have any other questions. No. Nice, very helpful presentation, Andrea.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well,
Yes, thank you so much.
thank
It's
you.
very interesting.
We miss you in here, Mary.
Oh,
I know.
thank
How are
you
you
so
doing?
much. Next meeting.
Okay.
Are
I
you
need to
doing
walk your
okay?
dog.
There you go.
What'd you say, Alana?
Mary, are you doing okay? Are you
I'm
doing
doing-
well?
I'm doing okay. I
Not
just
curiosity.
have a serious loss of stamina.
You
Uh,
need, you need.
Yeah, well,
That's
I put that on
understandable.
Sandy.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second the
Second.
motion.
Any discussion?
No. And yes.
Alana?
Yes.
Oh, you hesitated.
No, I wasn't.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. I saw you, I read your lips.
Bless her.
Bye, Mary. Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Okay.